How Uruguay shocked Brazil and silenced 200,000 fans. Imagine hosting the World Cup, building the biggest stadium on earth, watching your team score 13 goals in 2 matches, seeing newspapers declare you champions before the final game has even been played. Then imagine losing anyway, not to Germany, not to Italy, not to England, but to a country with barely 2 million people, a country so small that many people thought they were lucky just to be there, and in the process, breaking the hearts of nearly 200,000 fans in a single afternoon. This isn't just one of the greatest upsets in football history. Many people believe it's the greatest upset in sports history. A match so shocking that Brazil still has a name for it more than 70 years later, the Maracanazo. The disaster of the Maracanã. This is the story of how Uruguay shocked Brazil and silenced an entire nation. A World Cup. 12 years in the making, the World Cup was supposed to happen every 4 years. But after Italy won in 1938, the world changed. World War II erupted, cities burned, nations collapsed, millions died. Football suddenly felt insignificant. The tournaments scheduled for 1942 and 1946 were cancelled. For 12 years, the World Cup disappeared. An entire generation grew up without football's biggest competition. Then finally, in 1950, it returned, and there was only one country that made sense as host: Brazil. Football wasn't just popular there, it was part of the country's identity. People didn't simply support football, they lived it. And to celebrate the tournament's return, Brazil decided to build something extraordinary: the Maracanã Stadium, a gigantic concrete monument to football. At the time, it was the largest stadium ever built. When it was finished, it looked less like a sports venue and more like a modern wonder of the world. Soon, it would become the stage for one of football's greatest tragedies: Brazil's dream team. As the tournament began, Brazil looked unstoppable. They played with flair, speed, creativity. Everything seemed effortless. Opponents simply couldn't keep up. Then came the final group stage. First, Brazil demolished Sweden, 7-1, 7 goals. Then they faced Spain, one of Europe's strongest teams. Brazil won 6-1, another 6 goals. Think about that. Against 2 elite teams, Brazil scored 13 goals. 13. The rest of the world wasn't asking whether Brazil would become champions. They were asking how many goals Brazil would score in the final match. The confidence quickly turned into certainty. Newspapers printed victory headlines before the match had even been played. Some newspapers literally called Brazil world champions. Businesses prepared celebrations. Politicians prepared speeches. The trophy practically had Brazil's name engraved on it. The World Cup wasn't over, but Brazil was already celebrating, and that would prove to be a mistake. The team everyone forgot. Standing in Brazil's way was Uruguay, a country with a population of around 2 million people. Compared to Brazil, they looked tiny. Compared to Brazil's attacking firepower, they looked ordinary. Compared to Brazil's confidence, they looked forgotten. Most people expected them to lose comfortably, but there was one man who refused to believe that story: Uruguay's captain, Obdulio Varela, a leader so influential that teammates called him the Black Chief. Varela understood something important. Football matches are not won by newspapers, they are not won by predictions, and they are certainly not won before kickoff. As journalists praised Brazil and fans planned celebrations, Varela quietly watched. The entire world was focused on Brazil, exactly where he wanted the attention to be. Because pressure can inspire greatness, but pressure can also destroy teams. And Brazil was carrying the weight of an entire nation. The biggest crowd in football history, July 16, 1950, the Maracanã, nearly 200,000 spectators. Even today, it remains one of the largest crowds football has ever seen. Imagine standing on that pitch, every seat occupied, every staircase crowded, every section overflowing with fans. An endless sea of yellow and white. The atmosphere was unlike anything football had ever experienced. Brazil needed only a draw to become world champions, not a win, a draw. Uruguay needed victory. Anything less, and the trophy belonged to Brazil. The odds couldn't have been more one-sided. One nation expected a celebration, the other expected a miracle. Brazil scores. The match began exactly how everyone expected. Brazil attacked, Uruguay defended. Wave after wave of pressure crashed toward the Uruguayan goal. The first half ended scoreless, but Brazil looked dangerous. Then, early in the second half, it happened. Brazil scored. The Maracanã exploded. Nearly 200,000 people celebrated at once. The sound was deafening. Fans hugged strangers. Flags waved. People cried tears of joy. At that moment, Brazil believed they were world champions. And honestly, so did almost everyone else, except Uruguay. The captain, who refused to lose most teams, would have collapsed. Most teams would have accepted defeat. Obdulio Varela did neither. Instead, he picked up the ball and walked slowly toward the referee. He argued, complained, questioned the goal, not because he expected it to be overturned. He knew the goal would stand. He was doing something far more important, buying time. Every second allowed his teammates to calm down. Every second allowed the crowd's energy to fade. Every second prevented Brazil from building momentum. It was one of the smartest acts of leadership in football history. Eventually, play resumed, and Uruguay began to change. They stopped defending. They started believing. And suddenly, Brazil looked nervous. The moment doubt arrived. Then it happened. Uruguay attacked. The ball found Juan Schiaffino. He struck it. Goal. 1-1. For the first time all afternoon, doubt entered the stadium. Not panic, not fear, doubt. The kind of doubt that quietly whispers, what if? What if Brazil doesn't win? What if something goes wrong? What if this isn't our day? The crowd became quieter. The players became tense. And Uruguay sensed it immediately. The giant was wobbling. Now they just needed one more push. The shot that silenced a nation. The clock showed 79 minutes. Brazil still had time. The crowd still believed. Then Uruguay launched another attack. The ball reached Alcides Ghiggia on the right wing. Most people expected a cross. The defenders expected a cross. The goalkeeper expected a cross. Nearly 200,000 fans expected a cross. Ghiggia had other ideas. He accelerated, looked up, took one touch, and shot. The ball flew toward the near post. The goalkeeper reacted late. Too late. The ball crossed the line. Uruguay 2, Brazil 1. For a second, nobody moved. Not because they didn't see it, because they couldn't believe it. The noise vanished. The celebration vanished. The dream vanished. An entire stadium fell silent. Years later, Ghiggia would famously say, "Only 3 people have ever silenced the Maracanã: Frank Sinatra, the Pope, and me." And after watching that goal, it's hard to argue with him. The longest minutes in football history. Brazil threw everything forward. Attack after attack, cross after cross, shot after shot. The crowd desperately tried to push the team forward, but something had changed. The confidence was gone. The freedom was gone. The joy was gone. Now there was only pressure, and pressure can be a dangerous thing. Every missed chance increased the panic. Every passing second brought Uruguay closer. Then, finally, the referee blew his whistle. The match was over. Uruguay had done the impossible. The disaster of the Maracanã for Uruguay. It was the greatest victory in football history. For Brazil, it was a national tragedy. Some fans cried openly. Others simply sat in silence. Many couldn't process what they had witnessed. The celebrations were canceled. The speeches disappeared. The party never happened. One Brazilian newspaper reportedly described the result as a catastrophe. And that's exactly how it felt. Not because Brazil lost, but because everyone believed victory was guaranteed. The higher the expectations, the harder the fall, and nobody had ever fallen further. Legacy. Today, the match has a name: Maracanazo, the disaster of the Maracanã, a single football match so famous that it became part of history. It reminded the world of something football fans often forget. Games aren't won on paper, they aren't won by headlines, and they aren't won before kickoff, because sometimes the biggest stadium doesn't matter. Sometimes the biggest crowd doesn't matter. Sometimes the strongest team doesn't matter. And sometimes a nation of 2 million people can shock the entire world. But if you think football had already produced its greatest miracle, think again. 4 years later, another underdog would face another giant. A team nobody believed in would challenge the mighty Hungarians. A team many considered unbeatable. The result would become known as the Miracle of Bern, and it's one of the most unbelievable stories in World Cup history. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and join us as we continue the complete history of every FIFA World Cup.